Have you ever wondered, and you probably have, what it takes to be a social media influencer? You hear about it, but you really don't know how to do it. Or about building your own brand and what it takes to build a brand. Or should you buy followers? We're going to learn more about this today and get these questions answered. Coming up next. Mitchell, and this is To The Point. Got a good one for you. I know, you're like, does he say that every time? The answer is yes, I actually do. Got a good one for you, though. It's important to talk about what we're going to talk about today because we see the term influencer around. Recently, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson became the highest paid influencer in the world by using his social media. Gets reportedly paid over $4 million per post, or even $1 million per post. The numbers kind of differ between $1 to $4 million per post on Instagram, sponsored post. Could you imagine? That's all you gotta do is be Dwayne Johnson and just say, hey, I'm gonna make that. Before it was Kendall Jenner was making a killing on it, but she's come into some controversy, good, bad PR. That's a whole nother conversation for a different day. But as we know, Kendall was reported as the first billionaire in her age bracket. Turned out to be all fluff. Kind of scary. But anyways, that's not what we're talking about. We are going to talk, kind of Kendall Jenner will be brought into this. We are going to talk about what it takes to be an influencer, whether it's on TikTok, IG, or wherever. How to blend those brands. We're also going to talk about followers, engagement over following, what's important to know, and how, and also we're going to answer the question how you can become an influencer and get sponsored to do these simple things, whether it's a local brand or a national brand or an international brand. We have an amazing guest. You've seen her here before. She is now one of our correspondents, one of our social media correspondents, to give her the inside scoop on what it means to be an influencer in today's industry. She's very well known, not only as a travel influencer, but as a TikTok influencer also. So we're excited to bring and get to the point with today's amazing guest.
Light Flip Media, the voice of the warrior class. Are you a veteran or patriotic business owner, author, musician, public speaker, or entrepreneur? Are you ready to take the next step towards success? Then look no further than Light Flip Media, the voice of the warrior class. Light Flip Media is the #1 veteran-owned PR firm in America. We use our mission-oriented approach to secure advertising and media exposure for your business, your brand, and your products. It's time to let Light Flip Media put you on the cutting edge of success. Light Flip Media, the voice of the warrior class.
Hey Stephanie, how you doing today?
So good. A beautiful day outside, thank God.
It's great. It's summertime. It's good. I am laughing at people on social media that keep telling me it's hot in the summer. I'm like, thank you. Thank you, weather reporters, that everybody on social media is an expert. It's good to see that they pick up the easy ones. They're like the people in the winter that live in Minnesota. They're like, it's really cold and snowy here. I'm like,
all the time.
You live in Minnesota. So anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about, the weather. Nobody's like wants to tune in on a Friday to be like,
don't jinx it.
Stephanie and Eric talk about Florida weather.
Yeah.
And neither one of us are in Florida, but we have two Floridians. This is what we talk about. So let's talk about social media. The big thing that's happened in the last week as people are talking about this is social media influencers. Now they're huge. Unfortunately, the Fire brand of course, our friends at the Fire Fest really brought social media influence to a huge thing where they built a brand using influencers in a negative way. Not a knock on any of those influencers who participated. They didn't know. And you don't know. You know this as an influencer. You don't know. You're like, hey, you're paying me.
It really is, yeah.
Like, you don't know if this is going to come true. It's not like they're like, oh, yeah, I totally knew that this was a scam. No, I'm not knocking Kendall Jenner in any way or anybody else who participated. They were innocent puppets in this. But it came out. The man, the myth, the legend, the great Dwayne "Rock" Johnson knocked off Kendall, which is amazing to knock off Kendall Jenner or anybody related to the Kardashian family. he makes on Insta per post $1 million.
$1 million. I mean, that is insane. I mean,
Right?
Instagram, how old is it even? I mean, it's
Under
old,
10,
but it's
yeah.
not like, I mean, for you to be making $1 million for a
Per
post.
post. Per post.
Per post. I love him though.
Right?
He's an amazing poster.
He's just like, hey, I'm cool. I'm like, I would do that too. Because I've always went, like, my wife and I were like, why is he always like posting his workout? I do the same thing. I do like an Insta story when I'm riding my Peloton.
Oh, no.
I don't get sponsored to do that, by the way. I wish I did, but I don't. Peloton, shout out, sponsor me. Just kind of like Nike, sponsor me. I'm always shouting out for both of those brands to give me a sponsorship still. 10 years later, that's a big negatory from both.
Yeah.
Nike's a little bit older. But you are an influencer. You work a lot in different industries. We could see you on TikTok and IG. You're awesome at that. I know you're on other platforms, but we're going to pick on those two because that's where a lot of influencers are doing work. Now, TikTok in the news lately because people want to ban it, but there's a lot of influencers making a lot of money. But you guys also have backups. Most of you are smart and you're not like, TikTok wasn't your first. TikTok's new, so it's not like you guys were like, oh shit, something new. You were like, no, we've been on IG. Now we can take our dancing and our fun skits and things that we do and take it to something else. So you guys are prepared there, so we don't need to talk about that. If TikTok goes away, y'all be fine. Every one of you I've talked to is like, we're cool, we got it. We have we have other platforms. But I want to talk about making money as an influencer, like what it takes to do. So that's our first topic. This is going to be a pretty easy, if you're watching, we're going to talk about some cool stuff. So if you're interested in becoming, so how did you become an influencer? I think that's the number one question we hear from people is like, when you were last on, a lot of email came in going, how did she become an influencer? Like, I know you left TV and obviously you do acting and you kind of do, you're good in front of a camera. You're not one of these people who's like.
Entertainment. I'm in the field of entertainment for sure. And then I ended up kind of falling into travel influencing through that. So yeah, I worked at NBC for a few years, and after deciding, I really want to be in front of the camera, I'm really going to go for it, I decided to, of course, jump on these social media platforms. And eventually, I was posting good content. Consistency was my biggest issue. So I always say commit to consistency if you're going to get on social media. It's a big mistake that I made that I wish I hadn't made, because you lose a lot of trust with your audience right from the beginning. But so I had put myself out there. I was reaching out to people. I was sharing my pictures, really doing a lot of hashtag research. And then eventually I was contacted by brands or companies to come and be a spokesgirl for them, to compete. So I ended up falling into competing and modeling and doing different things. And then it ultimately turned into hosting televised events all over the world and doing different travel blogs and things like that, working with them. So it really happened just because I put myself out there. I started before I was ready. I didn't hold back, and I just I messaged people, no shame. I put myself out there, applied for everything. I tried to put out the best content that I could. And luckily I was in the entertainment space, so I was connected in that way. And there's many resources online where people who are looking to get into it can find photographers or people who edit content that, would love to collaborate. So it can be very overwhelming, because you're like, oh my goodness, first of all, how am I going to create the best content? How am I going to be consistent and continuously post good content? And how am I going to grow? What are the logistics, the hashtag research, the caption? What is the secret sauce, And it is very overwhelming. But know that for small influencers, working with other small influencers is going to be your biggest help at the beginning, because at the end, everybody wants everybody to grow. Instagram is not a place where, you can only watch one channel at a time. You can have as many followers, you can follow as many people as you want. So it's really an open platform for everyone to succeed. So you'll find that if you're trying to get into becoming an influencer, find influencers in your niche and reach out to them, because most of them would be more than happy to collaborate.
And that's great that you bring that up, because we talk about influencers and a lot of people have smaller accounts, right? A lot of people are still figuring out how to grow. They haven't learned how to manipulate all the platforms that, yes, there's people out there will advertise. I'm sure we've all got them. We can buy you followers, we can grow you. But I mean, for somebody who's starting out, so your advice is, one, collaborate, but is there a site that folks go to? I mean, I just know a lot of people are hungry, right? We have 30 million Americans out of work. Some people do actually have built up a following. I look at them, I see a lot of direct sales folks selling apparel, able to do this stuff. Where do you, is there a site that you go to? I mean, is this top secret stuff and I'm not supposed to know? Or, I mean, how's it work?
The reason that most people are like, where do I go? Where do I go? Is because you actually have to socialize on social media. It's really how you grow. So not only, there are many great platforms. I would focus mainly, right now I'm focusing on, even though Instagram and TikTok are huge, huge, huge for growing your fan base. If you want to focus on long-term searchable content, you go through Pinterest and Google. And I found that I drive a lot of traffic to my stuff from Pinterest. You know, people like to see something they can just visualize and click on the link. It's finding the perfect medium for your target audience. You know, younger demographic is going to be more on the TikTok, Instagram, where the older demographic is going to be more on the Pinterest, maybe LinkedIn, and then we have basically everybody on YouTube. So, you know, it's about finding the media mix and where you need to be in front of your target audience, which obviously comes with first figuring all of that out. And there are plenty of resources. I mean, YouTube is a huge one to find ways to find your target audience, to find what your niche is. And for a lot of influencers, I also think when they try to work with brands or they try to grow, they go for the brands that they like instead of the brands that are in their niche. And you really have to be honest with yourself, with the content you want to put out and the type of work you want to be doing for your YouTube or your social media career. Yeah. So for instance, you know, I wanted to travel the world and I wanted to be an entertainer. And so I put a lot of content out of me hosting shows for charity at the beginning and doing those little fashion shows in, you know, a very small studio. So, you know, everybody starts somewhere, and just don't be discouraged. You know, Sean Connell, one of my favorite YouTubers, he always says, start before you're ready. On any social platform, you're going to feel the resistance and you're going to feel the fear of judgment, especially. And for me, when I started on TikTok, I told myself, the only way I'm going to be consistent on this platform is if I work my content into my everyday life, because it was still brand new and I didn't know the future of it. It had been banned already in India and Malaysia before it was even talked about being banned here, so I always knew of the possibility. But I had to make it a dance page. As an entertainer, you know, that's part of my whole thing, you know, the triple threat. So I put my dancing content on there and made it part of my workouts in the morning, and that's how I stayed consistent. And as a creator, you have to know, like, what's my lifestyle? What do I want to be doing, not just right now to make a buck, but what do I want to be doing consistently that I can keep up with? And also, what's my niche? What's realistically what brands are going to want to work with me?
I love that, because that's something that a lot of people are still trying to figure out. But let me ask you this. As there are the negative sides of being an influencer, because you now see some of these, I don't even know what they are. I don't want to call them a name because I don't know if they're legit or not. I don't think they're legit, because all these folks that end up tagging people as you grow, they're like, hey, I'd like to collaborate with you. Then you click on it. It's like, oh, you need to buy this $300, $400 watch and we'll increase your viewership, or whatever they want to say. What's your thoughts on those things? Those are bad news, avoid, or is it something that'll help you?
So it's about knowing the brands. You know, a lot of times they are scams. If you Google it, I mean, it's the biggest micro-influencer scam out there is, oh, we'll give you 50% off for life and da-da-da-da commission. And, you know, they're very predatory. I have gotten the same message from multiple companies, multiple stores. But I also have gotten very legitimate ones that have sent me free product, that have paid me, that have reached out similarly to the other one. So you do have to do your research. It's just like being an entrepreneur in any other profession. You run the risk anytime that you do it. I do say that if the brands are willing to post you on their page and you're still a very small influencer, that's one of the biggest ways I've seen growth, is getting shared onto other people's stories or pages. So if you're looking to, if a clothing brand, say, or a watch brand reaches out to you and they're like, okay, buy our watch 50% off, and you're like, okay, I'll do it for the exposure, that's fine. But if you're looking for a serious brand deal, if you're already at a level that's maybe an upper echelon, like micro-influencer above 10K, then and you want to make a brand deal, then I would say I prefer to reach out to brands. I'm not really that keen to brands reaching out to me. I look for the brands that fit my niche, first off. I'll reach out to them and I'll tell them, this is the content that I can provide. Most influencers will have some sort of media kit, even if it's just one page, to show the type of content that you can provide for them, because obviously they want to see that. Make sure that your vibe and the pictures you have are similar to that brand, and make sure that they know that you have been following them. You didn't just follow them the moment that you message them. They want to see the consistency, see that you're a true influencer that really cares about the brand and you're not just trying to make a quick buck, because they can see that. They can see the ingenuity. They're getting messages all the time from different influencers. And so when you message or reach out to a brand, make sure that you're genuine, make sure that you know what you're talking about and you know the brand. And also, one of my biggest things is never close the conversation with these brands. If a brand you reach out to a brand and they come back with a no, or we don't have the budget or any of that, never ever end the conversation or just say thank you. Say, okay, well, I'd still like to find a way to work together. Maybe you can, shout them out or something. Find a way to either work together for free, what you can offer them, or just make sure that you end the conversation with, well, maybe when you acquire the budget, or maybe in the near future, or we'll talk soon. Never close that line of communication, because I've gotten so many jobs that I lost at first, but then, months later they come back and decide to work with me. So never close the conversation, because opportunity is everywhere. Sometimes patience is the key.
I love that you said that. And by the way, Nike, Peloton, and Wolf and Shepherd, come on, I'm loyal. I spend money with you.
I love it.
I'm just saying. Anyways, no, but let's be real here. So I couldn't help it. You said to tell the brands. So I'm like, I talk about you every show. So let's go to another part, again, staying within the influencer realm, and you see it a lot. More people are getting online. One of the things I love about this week on this show, starting on Monday, we had from Green Beret Media, the amazing Chris McPhee, who got out and he found himself producing and doing amazing documentaries. He's releasing just some amazing footage from what's going on in Portland right now with these protests that have basically gained national attention. Tuesday, the amazing Brian Fanzo, kind of one of the futurists who's always been leading the way when Periscope and Meerkat, we're going to age ourselves when we think of those two brands going live. Brian had access before anybody and talking about pushing the button. He's always on social, amazing guy. Rachel Bernicke, right? An attorney who uses TikTok, and her videos are hilarious. And then Brandon Steiner. Well, Brandon, he has a social media presence, but he's Brandon Steiner. And then you, right? So everybody's using, all five of you use social in an amazing way, and you understand how to use it. But then there's this debate. I saw this. Somebody said that it's more important to have followers. This is how The Rock got his $1 million a post, which I was like, wow, it's still a lot of money. I'm still shocked on that. And followers are more important than engagement. Now, my argument is I'd rather have engagement than a ton of followers. I can build a following because I know that you can go buy followers, which is crap. I don't think it's fair. A lot of brands do it. And I don't like it because I've had to build brands organically. And I wish, I'll pick on my own company, LifeFlip Media, I wish our IG would grow. But it's slow and steady like a turtle, right? It's hard. It's hard. It's like slow and steady. It just kind of climbs. Now, my personal page, just like yours, over 40,000, and it's kind of stuck in this realm where it kind of goes back and forth. Just depends on. I've been more consistent lately, in which I know that's a big thing for IG is being consistent. I think with all social, it's being consistency is be dedicated. Like you said, you want to be on one platform at one time, go all in. It's a lot of work to be on everything. You're talking about Pinterest, but that argument of followers versus engagement for you. What do you look for? As somebody I look at you as an expert in this field because you actually live it every day, have multiple streams coming in. What's more important to you?
So it's funny. To me personally, engagement is everything, because at the end of the day, it's who's going to buy from you, right? You could have $1,000 followers, but you're monetizing that 1,000 followers because they want what you're selling or what your brand is. If you have a bunch of fake followers, they're not buying from you. They're not engaging. You're not getting data. There's no value. There is a psychological concept that like attracts like, and when people see more followers, they're more inclined to follow. That is a strategy, but I do not think it's a long-term or sustainable strategy. Brands that buy their followers will forever have an unequal engagement to follower ratio, and as brands get smarter with influencer marketing, they're going to see that. And I have worked with big brands who have hired influencers who have hundreds of thousands of followers, but very, very little likes. And it baffles me sometimes that some brands don't really look at that, but it depends on the brand. Some brands are looking, okay, I want people to make a direct purchase from this influencer. Other people are saying, okay, I want to get visibility from this, or I want some of their content. You could be a small influencer, but you make amazing content, you know how to edit, you know how to make those. So it's actually going to be different for every brand. And again, that's coming from knowing your niche and knowing what the people who are coming to you are looking for.
Yeah. It goes back to the follower thing, though. I see so many people buying followers because all of a sudden they go from 500, or they're advertising. There's so many brands out here charging a ton of money to get verified, all these things because people, yes, it's important. I'm at 46,000 followers. I am not verified. Trust me. I'm sure I could pay my way to get there. I don't want to because I just feel that takes all the fun out of learning how to do it yourself. And I want to reach the level of The Rock or somebody like that just to get verified, like to be one of these folks that has done enough in the media, but I see these people manipulating it and they're making a killing and boasting. But I think in the long run, it actually doesn't help because these platforms, as we've seen, both of us have seen, they eventually catch up to you and they start going through and going, who bought followers, who's using media views. So let me ask you this. So how do we, it's easy for people to get caught up in that, like to this, again, it goes back to that get rich quick as entrepreneurs. Like, what is your advice to folks about do not buy followers? Like, tell the bad, because I think that's a big thing that if I look at somebody like you, I'd rather support what you're doing and tell people to share your stuff and tag my friends and go, hey, that's why I tag you in all these posts, because I'd rather do that and gain some of your followers. Maybe my followers follow you. I think that's way more important. And I know Jordan and I have talked about this over and over again. It's important to tag each other. And I ask people, just like I've asked you, hey, can I tag you? Do you mind if I tag you in promos? And you've never said no. But I ask permission for it. But what's your thoughts on people who are doing this? Like, how do people get away from, not thoughts on followers, but buying followers? Like, that's not the way to go, right?
Yes. And I think that as more people get onto social media and it becomes more and more saturated, that the quality over the quantity is going to become more important. Of course, at the beginning of Instagram, everything was about the amount of followers you have. I mean, people would judge you on the street because they would add you on Instagram and see how many followers you had. But now I think people are desensitized to it. They're not really looking at the follower count as much as they're looking at the quality of your content, like stories, Instagram Reels, YouTube Reels, the things that are coming in to replace TikTok. They are all going to really help influencers that are smaller show their personalities and come out and be like, okay, this is me. I'm not this fake picture behind the facade. I'm not hiding behind this number. They're going to see their real personalities. And at the end of the day, Instagram is way easier to fake a lifestyle than video platforms. You know, it's way easier to look like a model and edit your photos than people really seeing you in video and stuff like that. So I think that for people who have bought their followers, they're in for a rude awakening when Instagram Reels and YouTube Reels comes out, for sure.
Yeah, that is for sure. And in talking about YouTube, before you go, I do want to talk about that because we love YouTube here at To The Point. It's basically our bread and butter. It's one of our favorites. And adding in, it's a constant argument with my staff about doing IGTV. I love Instagram. And I think that's my addiction, is how can I put more content on there and where to put it. But when you talk about some influencers, and I see some of them that I know have worked with people who are renowned for boosting, and not boosting as in pushing the boost button, but they kind of moved their ball up by having bots and all these people answer. Now, I've seen some nightmares, and I'm not going to name any people in particular. They probably will watch the show and go, Eric's talking about me. I'm not going to say their name, but I've seen people buy bots and have nightmare experience. I've always avoided bots. I've always told my clients, even when we dabbled in the space, anybody we work with that's a partner in social, I'm like, please tell me you don't do bots. Because I've seen people post about a pet passing or their father pass, and whatever keyword was used, somebody was like, that's awesome, we should connect. Seriously, I've seen bots do it on numerous occasions. So so what are your thoughts on these bots? Like, there's no gimmick that you could do. You have to put the work in with social. I mean, you probably get a lot of traffic, a lot of engagement, and it's all you. Just like, and I love him, Lewis Howes. That's Lewis responding. I love Lewis just because Lewis is so down to earth. David Melzner's another one. All these people who actually engage, you engage. I think that's so key right now, is be you. Don't go, be authentic. If Gary Vee, who's huge, can respond to people, I mean, even The Rock responds on his own Insta. Don't have a bot do it. You look cheesy, and I think it's just like, everybody wants to cut a corner.
Yes.
So, would you ever use a bot?
No, I honestly, because I personally believe in the fact that my followers actually are believing and buying into what I sell and who I am, and I'm not trying to go for the numbers. It's never been my prerogative, because I know, and I have seen from the way that I monetize, that when I have real followers and real engagement, people want to know more about my ebook, or they want to know more about my hair or what I'm doing. And obviously bots, of course, increase that psychological aspect, that the more you see, the more you are inclined to engage. But at the same time, I mean, that's going to reflect in your brand forever. And I think that brands that are making that decision at the very beginning have not even tried yet, you know, and then that's going to reflect in your work ethic and how people see you, especially when things start becoming very personal with video. And you're expected to be on Instagram Reels for your business and things. People are going to see right through you. And And also it's hard because not everybody is meant for social media, but it's crucial for small businesses. Many people, I'm sure, in a certain demographic don't even want to be on there, but how else are they going to get that visibility and seem legitimate? So it's a really double-edged sword, because I do feel bad for the people who, aren't really social media people. They're not photographers. They don't like being in front of the camera. So it's really tough. It puts you in a hard decision, but again, you have to, in a hard place, but you have to understand where your time is best spent and where you can be most authentically you, because that's the only way you're going to be consistent.
So let me ask you, that's a good way. How we'll end it is on this one. You brought up a good question. People belonging on social, and not like everybody. I think everybody belongs on social. Like, go on social. We're not saying you don't belong on social. We don't need to hate mail either one of us. Like, oh, Stephanie and Eric think people don't belong. We never said that. But to be clear, what about I think all brands belong on social. I mean, today that's just the way the world is. 2020, I've had this discussion with countless people. Brian Fanzo talks about it. Rachel's talked about it. Attorney. It's cool. I mean, everybody's on there. I think Rachel Brinke does a great job. It's TikTok and attorneys you don't think of. I mean, you think of seeing you, travel influencer. You think of seeing Bruce Willis, who's home bored, clearly has nothing better to do than make TikToks. Wayne Brady, who's with his ex-wife, staying with his kids and her new boyfriend. Interesting world. And yeah. Oh, I know what we're going to talk about. I have one more question for you, but here's my first one. Then I have another one. We're just going to make fun of it. But it's a good one too. But on this one, like for folks that are, how do you know, how can you put your brand on if you're not good on camera? You're not a creative, as I always like to say. Some people aren't going to go find the lights, the good microphone, to go do this and do this production value, where we're not going to disclose what day we're filming this, but like filming this stuff when you're just hopping on, you're making sure that you're doing this. What is your suggestion for those folks who aren't like great on social? How do they, like, what's the go around, the fix to be able to do that?
So that's the beauty about there being so many outsource anything. And there are plenty of brands who the owner is never seen. They'll have models take over their story or their live, or only post guest content. And that's where creators, have this big opportunity, because there are plenty of brands, and you can tell most of them when you visit a page. Say you visit your niche, travel lodges, and you see like, oh, these pictures are all with different girls, or oh, these pictures are all in different styles. You notice that they take guest content, so go ahead and reach out. There are many, when you can't do that, to always outsource. As a brand, I always say outsource to different creators, find charismatic people out there to do things for you, because many of the greatest inventors and creators and iconic people in history barely knew what they were doing. They just surrounded themselves with people who knew what they were doing. And there's this amazing book called The Originals that is literally all about these big names in history and how they didn't have a clue, how they didn't have a plan, but they created a team of people with that knowledge, and they just ended up being the face or the charisma of it. So outsourcing is huge, and I strongly recommend that for brands who don't really have the equipment or the time even to make content like this. And it's not expensive at all. I mean, Fiverr is a great way. Finding influencers is pretty easy nowadays. You can type in anything and people will come up. So for brands that really don't want to be on camera, outsource. And also creators, like, look out there for those brands that are taking guest content. There are, how you get you can get your articles on Forbes, Times Magazine, all of those things. I was like, how do you do that? Oh, you just submit guest content. I was like, guest content? And the whole concept of being able to just submit your content to a brand and growing from that, I mean, is just amazing. So yeah, definitely outsource and work together.
I love that you said that. So final one, you've done some work with Facebook, so you're familiar with Miss Jada Smith and Mr. Will Smith's show on Watch?
Yes.
You know where I'm going. So they advertise, which it's a cool concept. I love any couple that is like them. I've always been a fan of both. I think they're both talented actors. I love Will Smith, and I love Jada. She's awesome. They put it all out there, and I don't know how much of it's real and how much of it is. I mean, they're both very good actors. So recently, the Father's Day episode, which is still so creepy that's the episode that is the one that caused all the drama. But recently, they talked about when they took a couples break. They basically came out and she said that she had an entanglement, which I guess that's
entanglement, right?
I'm like, girl, it's called an affair, or you cheated, not an Don't try to make a. I think I Googled that and saw how many times entanglement's ever been used, and it won the last 4 weeks. But I mean, last question: do you think that this is the place Do you think that's where you air your dirty laundry, is on social, like the whole world to see? Do you think that was real, or do you think that was like fake? Like, because I know people are thirsty. You know, I love to use that word now. Thirsty for everything. So was that thirsty for attention to stay relevant, or that shit was real and they just put it all out on blast?
I mean, I personally think that Jada and Will, first of all, Will has another great show on Facebook Watch where he conquers his fears, and he talks about how he's achieved all his dreams, so there must be another level of life now, so he goes and does death-defying things that he's scared of. And for me, their whole family, even Willow, they're very woke, would you say? Like, all of their content is very personal, and that's something that, as a creator, he's a star, but for creators, I say, if you don't have time to engage, if you don't have time to do all that extra stuff, the least you need to do is make your content feel so personal that they feel like you're talking directly to them. And I think they do an amazing job at that, being actors and whatnot, but they put it all out there. They really do. And their entire family is not afraid to be themselves. And I think, I mean, that's just their personality. I think Will Smith is probably one of the most inspirational people out there. And Jade is just a baddie. She's awesome. She's like my idol. So I do think to some extent things are always scripted and made juicier and all that stuff. But when I see their other content, I say that's the type of creator I want to be. Someone who, throughout all of my content, from my movies to my Instagram to everything, they feel me and they feel like it's a personal experience. And with Will Smith, every time I watch him, I'm taken by him. I feel like he's talking to me. And so I think that's, people can really, really, really learn from the Facebook Watch shows that he does.
Yeah. I agree with you, and like I'm a big fan of Kevin Hart, and I love his social. Him with The Rock combined our hours of entertainment of just laughing at each other. But you learn a lot about their brands, and I want to be authentic. And another one that I'll give a shout out to that I just love watching what he does on IG is Lewis Howes. Just simply amazing how authentic he is. He puts himself out there, and I think that's something even you've done. I've done it. You show yourself at the most vulnerable. Like, you didn't just show up here like, hi, I'm on social and this is me. Like, it was a journey to get there. Lewis recently posted a photo from like 8 years ago where he was this dweeby looking dude with a busted arm standing in Italy, like figuring out how he got there. And now he's, I mean, just beneath Rogan with the amount of people who listen to his podcast. I mean, he's amazing. Huge. I mean, but I think that's what people have to do. So I think when we have you back, we'll dive deeper into it. But
that's what it's all about nowadays. People don't want to live in this fake Instagram world anymore. They're starting to unleash the veil of reality, and that's what people want. They want the nitty gritty. They want the real, but they also want to be inspired. I don't think anyone is looking to go to social media to see how horrible life is. But it's about understanding.
We have the news for that. We have the news for that. So if we want to be disturbed, we just turn on cable news or our network TV, and they'll just tell us all the bad things going on in the world. I go on to see guests dancing. I go on, it's what I do. I go and see what everybody's doing, and it's amazing to watch all the content. And I think all of our guests are pretty good. The ones that are active on social, they're killing it. But you gave a lot of good advice today, so I want to thank you today for coming on, finishing out this awesome week. Always good to come on a Friday, crush it. People go follow. They all know how to follow Stephanie. Go check her out. She's always entertaining. I want to thank you for coming on today. It's awesome. So we'll have you back on. Obviously, you appear like every 2 weeks on our show now. So we'll have you back on. If you have any questions or topics you want us to talk about on Stephanie's appearance days, please send those questions into To The Point or send them over to Stephanie. We'll make sure we talk about both of them. And we'll be right back after these messages. Thank you for watching this episode of To The Point. As always, I'm your host, Eric Mitchell, and we thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, if you know someone that we should be interviewing on our show, or you'd like to be a guest on our show, feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. We'd love to have you as a guest on our show. Please go ahead and feel free to follow us on Twitter at To The Point TV. We'd love to see you on Twitter. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram. We're huge fans of Instagram here at To The Point. So give us a follow at To The Point and a like and a share so you can see the guests that are coming up on IG. And that is at To The Point TV. It's not .com. It's just at To The Point TV. So confusing with all these names taken. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know what we're going to get ready to go. But before you do that, if you're a fan of Facebook and you spend a lot of time on there, go give our Facebook page a like and a follow and share it with your friends. And keep in mind, if you can't get to your YouTube, you can always watch us live at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern weekdays. We appreciate to see you there. And as always, my favorite peeps, you're here on the YouTube, and we love you here on YouTube. So make sure that you drop in and you can see every episode and never miss an episode, right? Because if you smash that subscribe button, give it a like, and flick that bell, you flick that bell, you get notified before everyone else when we drop the latest episode or subscription. And as a reminder, all of our segments and shows go live weekdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. So you will be the first to catch them, and you don't want to miss them. Go check out our library. They are broken down by hashtags, so you will never miss an episode. On behalf of our entire team here at To The Point, we want to thank you for tuning in, because if it wasn't for viewers like you, we wouldn't have a show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
Let's get to the point.